This is Shred, and today we're going to talk about progressive metal, how you can use classical guitar to improve your sight reading, and let's not forget about guitar modes. This is possibly one of the most misunderstood topics in all of music theory. By the way, everything I play in this video will be available in tablature format at my Patreon page below. So grab your axe and let's get to it. Now I'm going to be answering some questions today. So first up is Thunder Shredding. Thunder Shredding asks, what is your favorite band? That's definitely a tough question. But when I was growing up, it was all about progressive metal. Bands like Dream Theater and Shadow Gallery, Symphony X, Pagan's Mind. But now for some reason it's Billie Eilish and Nicki Minaj. But in all seriousness, guys like John Petrucci blew my mind.
And that means I can play over 4 million notes per second, but I don't play that fast because people die, so I keep it low, around 2000.
I remember watching his Rock Discipline VHS. Yes, that's right, I said VHS. Keep in mind I'm 666 years old. The exercises in Rock Discipline were very technically advanced, but they were also musical, and that's what drew me to it. In fact, I still use one of the picking patterns from that video. Progressive metal. Flow can shred. Very clever. Real talk, I actually use Progressive Insurance. Vitama D Internet asks, do you have Not as far as I know, but my test results did say I had the evil virus. Go Buns asks, excellent username by the way, I can't put what I see on the music sheet to the guitar keyboard. I looked up a few videos, but they all teach what things mean on paper. What should I do? Well, the first thing to do when understanding musical notation is to get a feel for the notes on the staff. You've got E, G, B, D, F on the lines. You can remember that by the acronym Every Good Boy Does Fine. And then for the spaces, well, that spells the word face. F-A-C and E. Once you get those going, try out Giuliani's infamous 120 arpeggios for classical guitar. Here's Giuliani's complete guitar studies. Maybe I'll leave a link to the book in the description below. Either way, I'll put the first 10 in a PDF file at my Patreon page in the description. Dream Theater. Symphony X. It's the age-old debate. Who is your favorite progressive metal band? Let me know in the comments. Semtexbez has a question. Asphincter says what? Classic Wayne's World reference. Any tips on how to remember scales and modes faster? The way human memory works is we need to attach something meaningful to information. Otherwise, it's just in one ear and out the other. It's kind of like if you open up one of those guitar chord books and just try to learn all the chords versus learning actual songs. You tend to memorize the songs a lot faster because they're fun to play and they sound good. Learning just scales isn't very musical, so learn the chord progressions too. By the way, I actually have a whole course on the modes. I'll leave the link below. I filmed it a few years ago, but the information in it is gold. In fact, I think the only other course on modes I've seen that lays out the modes so clearly is Frank Gambale's Modes No More Mystery. Everyone seems to know the scales to modes, but not the chords. I mean, look it up on Wikipedia. There's no talk about chords when it comes to modes. It's Crazy. Took me years to figure this out. When your bandmate accidentally plays a C minor major 9 add 6 add 11 flat 13 sharp 11 over E instead of a C minor major 9 add 6 add 11 sharp 13 sharp 11 over E. And you notice it. I think it's safe to say we've all been there, Tosin. Next question. Johan Seguin asks, what was your first guitar and what age did you have it? Well, I got my first guitar when I was 14. My parents got me one of those starter kits for Christmas. It's like a Yamaha guitar, an amp, and a cord, some picks, strings. I played Sweet Child of Mine so much on that guitar that my mom outlawed it. And then 2 years later, I bought the Ibanez Universe that you see in most of my videos after working many summer jobs. So as I mentioned before, one of my favorite prog metal bands growing up was Shadow Gallery. These guys never got a lot of commercial success due to poor marketing, but I remember hearing the guitarist Gary Workamp shredding up this song called Stiletto in the Sand. Just floored me. Indigo Martin asks, what would your dream guitar be, aside from your Ibanez? Also, when will we get more workout content? Well, Indigo, I'd love to have a signature axe one day. Maybe with a company like Charvel or Ormsby or Strandberg, perhaps Kiesel. Ibanez is great too. In terms of workout content, I am doing a lot more of that on the gram. Now that we're all in lockdown quarantine, it's a perfect time to build your physique. And I think it's important as guitar players and musicians to get outside and move because we spend so much time sitting down on our asses. Weightlifting or exercise is going to help you stay a lot healthier, which is going to indirectly affect your musicianship in a good way. Gotta shred till you're dead, if you know what I mean. Andui asks, how do you feel about Friday the 13th falling on a Halloween this year? Well, I have to admit I quite like the idea. Now, real talk, my birthday is actually October the 13th, the most evil day in the most evil month. Sometimes it even falls on Friday the 13th. Panos says, how would you define a composer as great or the best? Which elements would you seek into his music to say he's better than the others? Well, that's not an easy question to answer because there's a lot of subjective components when it comes to assessing musical quality. But for me personally, I'd look for someone with an extensive command of the musical language. Melody, harmony, proper application of chromaticism that results in good tension and release. Also dynamic control. But at the end of the day, people just like what they like. I'd go a step further. I think eventually we're going to find a genetic predisposition proof of this. So there'll be things like a metal gene that science uncovers, or maybe the jazz gene. Hell, there's probably even blue genes. Vico Castro asks, how to use the Lydian dominant mode in a harmonic way? Create a chord progression of 3 or 4 chords entirely with the sounds, not only over one chord. Well, that's a great question, Vico. The Lydian dominant mode is the 4th mode of the melodic minor scale. And actually, John Petrucci is a big fan of this mode. So the harmonic content in Lydian dominant can be represented by the formula major 1-7 to major 2. Or let's say we had A Lydian dominant. It would just be the chords A7 and B. It's just 2 chords. Doesn't sound like enough? Think again. Music is defined as repetition and development. We need to hear the same kind of content over and over, but with changes. In other words, just play these 2 chords, but do them in different voicings or inversions or using different techniques like finger tapping or arpeggios. I promise you'll never get bored in a million years if you do that. Getting back to progressive metal, Another one of my influences is Devin Townsend. Devin Townsend has some of the most incredible creativity I've ever heard. He's also an absolute wizard when it comes to studio sound and also live sound. Actually heard he used to take dumps in Steve Vai's guitar case when they were on tour together. Crappy deal for Steve, but what are you gonna do? Dustin Volman asks, do you really need those long nails as a guitarist? Well, if you want to replicate a classical guitar sound, then absolutely. Like the difference, it's kind of hard since I have nails, but this is like just flesh. And then this is nail. It's just a much bigger, fuller tone. It gives you more control of dynamics and timbre as well. Long nails do get in the way of things like finger tapping, but if you keep them short enough, it's not a big deal. That's it for this Q&A, guys. If you have a question for me, leave it in the comments below. I would say leave it on my community page, but YouTube disabled my comments section there. Appreciate you, YouTube. Until next time, shred till you're dead. Ha ha.